like to welcome you once again to episode 7 of our Take 5 series, season 3, where we are focusing on the family and looking at how we can navigate some of the conflicts and the difficult experiences that we encounter in our families. My name is Busi Ncube. I am the Women's Ministries Director at the Chisipite Seventh-day Adventist Church. Today, we want to focus on a choice that David made, the choice not to retaliate when he had opportunity to. If we turn our Bibles to 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 4 to 7. Here we find that as Saul continues his pursuit of David and his men, he takes an army of 3,000 men and he goes to the wilderness to hunt down David and his tiny band of men to kill and get rid of David. And we find that Saul gets to a place where he enters into a cave to rest or to sleep. And unbeknown to him, David and his men are actually hiding in the very same cave. David's men then say to him in verse 4, "David, this is your chance. The Lord has brought your enemy into your hands. This is the day that we have all been waiting for, where you can finally take your revenge on Saul and kill him." But David does something that is so counterintuitive. He refuses to touch Saul and he refuses to listen to what his men are saying. Remember, David is a fugitive because of Saul, and he is suffering all this unjustly. He has not deliberately, intentionally offended Saul. So ordinarily one would think that he is justified if he decides to take Saul's life and end all this torture that he has been subjected to. But David refuses, and all that he does is he cuts the skirt of Saul's garment and he takes that. The next morning, they watch as Saul leaves the cave, still not aware that David and his men are actually inside. And then later, David becomes so remorseful for having cut that skirt. And he actually says that he has done something that is wrong because he has tampered with a man who is king and who is anointed of the Lord. He also, I suppose, is recognizing the fact that he needs to respect Saul, not only because Saul is king, but because Saul is his father-in-law too. Now my question is, in our families, how do we deal with those family members that have been a source of our pain, a source of our torment, the family members that have caused us untold suffering? What do we do when we have opportunity to take revenge? How do we respond when those family members that empathize with us give us counsel that if you want to pay back, this is the best way that you can cause hurt to this family member that has been treating you unfairly? Young people, what do you do when that relative who took care of you when your parents died is now at your mercy? Do you pay them back in the same coin that they dealt you when you needed them the most? The ill treatment that they gave you, are you inclined to deal the same with them? What do? You are a spouse, you are a wife. Your husband has been the primary breadwinner and he has been very difficult in terms of giving you the money that you need. And now tables have turned. You are now the one that is earning and being responsible for the family. Do you retaliate? Do you treat them the way that they have treated you? What are the lessons that we can draw from these experiences? Lessons that we can apply in our own lives. The first lesson that I would like us to look at, or the first lesson that I would like us to take, is David chose to use this opportunity not to retaliate, but to actually extend grace to Saul. He chooses to take evidence with which he will shame Saul and expose his evil ways, but he refuses to stoop low and kill Saul. So the lesson is, perhaps instead of retaliating, extend grace to the family member that has abused you, that has ill-treated you. The second lesson is that David chooses to focus on his obligation to God. He chooses to do the right thing that God would have him do, as opposed to focusing on the enemy. So in other words, he looks a little higher. He looks beyond Saul, and he sees God watching him. And he decides to rather honor God and rather have God be proud of him than to retaliate and deal with his enemy in the manner that his enemy would have dealt with him. The third and final lesson is that restraint has an amazing way of softening your enemy. Because what then happened when David showed Saul his garment and explained that he did have opportunity to kill him, but chose not to? We find that Saul then eventually confessed and acknowledged that indeed God was with David and that David was going to become king. And then he then makes a plea to David and says, when that time comes, please deal kindly with my family, with my children and my extended family. Do not, I beg you, treat them in the way that I have treated you. So in other words, through restraint and through extending grace to Saul, David was able to get Saul to see the error of his ways, albeit momentarily. But what I would also like to say is that you need to be wise about exercising restraint and seeing your enemies acknowledge they are wrong. Because sometimes, if they have been so entrenched in terms of fighting you, that confession may be short-lived and they will still come back and try to do harm to you. But for the purposes of this lesson, let us recognize that sometimes restraint should be our response of choice in order for us to redeem the enemy that is pursuing us.
Take 5 is a show produced by the Ncube Church, a fountain of love, and is made possible by support from many partners. If you wish to follow more of our studies on these and many other subjects, please connect with us on the Ncube SDA Church on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Like our platforms and share with us your comments. We also have our plug-in team ready to pray with you and encourage you through life's challenges. So please connect with us and would love to pray with you. We can't wait to hear from you. And remember, when life seems to drown you, just take a moment, take a break, and take 5 to reflect.
May the Lord bless us. These lessons are difficult, yes, to implement. But with the Lord on our side, He will give us the strength to look away, to focus on Him, and not to treat our enemies or deal with them in the way that they deal with us. And I pray that you will continue to experience joy and that you will continue to find strength in the Lord as you navigate the difficult seasons of your family life.